Hello everyone, I'm Digi Bro here, and I've got with me my friend Derrick. Say hi.
What's up, everybody?
We're going to do a let's play or let's drown out. I'm basically copying if you're a fan of Yahtzee, him and his friend do a let's drown out series where they just sort of play video games for a little while and talk over them about whatever, and we're gonna do that. So Derrick here is gonna be playing
Bayonetta.
And on what console here?
The PS3. It's my first time playing this game. It's from Sega. If you don't already know, it's a little...
Not developed by Sega, but it was ported by Sega.
Yeah, ported by Sega. Sorry.
Go ahead and start it up, and
Right.
we'll give a little introduction of it. So Bayonetta is by a company called Platinum Games, who are sort of like a famous company in a sense, but like with a cult following. Let's put it. All right. Well, it's going to be very hard. I'm just letting you know.
Oh,
this
Jesus.
is a hard game. Well, I mean, normal will be fine. You'll learn how to play it, but it's going to be challenging. So anyway, Platinum Games, pretty cool people. They were originally called Clover Studio, and they were part of Capcom. So the first games that they did, I think their first ever was Beautiful Joe. And have you ever played Beautiful Joe?
I did on GameCube. Whichever one was on, or two was on GameCube.
Yeah. I think there were 3 actually, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure of
Beautiful Joe was originally concocted because Capcom was doing a thing called the GameCube 5 or something like that. Basically, Shinji Mikami, who created I think he created Resident Evil and Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
Yeah, he created Resident Evil. When he was supposed to be the director on Resident Evil 3, he wanted to make it an action game, and instead ended up making Devil May Cry so that it would be more, so that Resident Evil could stay true to itself. But that's why Devil May Cry 1 plays a lot like a Resident Evil game with the camera angles and everything. And so Shinji Mikami was leading this development of 5 GameCube exclusive titles that would be made by Capcom, because the GameCube was pretty much a fledgling system at the time. Nobody was playing it and or owning it. They wanted to make some games to help it, I guess, take off. So they made Beautiful Joe, which was by Clover Studio. They made a few other games. I think they only ever made 3 of the 5. I think one of them was in development and got canceled. One of them they never started, basically because the GameCube never picked up sales and they couldn't really make money off the games they were making for it. One of them,
Classic
I think, was
Nintendo.
Oni, which sucked. Well,
I think I've
Classic
heard
Nintendo,
of Oni. Oh, well, yeah, I said classic Nintendo because most of their consoles don't sell.
That's not true, though. It's only true of the GameCube and the Wii U. The Wii is the highest selling console ever. It just didn't appeal to gamers. So that's a funny statistic about the Wii, is that a lot of gamers sort of write it off. They're like, oh yeah, it was all about the Xbox 360 and the PS3. But the Wii actually sold much better because it appealed to mainstream audiences, and I think at first it wasn't doing as well, but in the end it outsold them both combined, basically. But it never really appealed to gamers in a big way. And the problem with the Wii U was that they tried to make it oh, we're going to appeal to gamers again, but then no one made games for it, and so it's currently tanking in sales. And a lot of people are worried about Nintendo's future, because the DS did really well also.
Yeah, I had a DS. I mean,
everyone had a DS, but nobody bought a 3DS. So the 3DS and the Wii U have both been tanking. Nintendo's really worried. A lot of people are concerned that they're going to, go out of business or something, or get bought out. I don't know. Nintendo have historically always been one of the few companies that never reported loss until last year. Last year was the worst year in the company's history. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do okay. They're probably sitting on enough money to last a little while, but the Wii U definitely has not tanked. It's been tanking in sales. They had originally predicted that the Wii U would sell this year. They were predicting 9 million units, and now they've cut it down to 3 million. So they've basically given up on the idea that it's even going to sell well, which is kind of sad. But in any case, that's totally off topic. But the GameCube 5, Clover Studio made Beautiful Joe, and then they sort of moved to PS2 games. They made God Hand, which is another cult favorite.
Pretty great.
And then they also did Okami, which is famous
Still
for...
haven't actually sat down and played it, but I played the demo, I think, and I played a little bit at a friend's house. I enjoyed it, but partly because I'm, so interested in, I guess, you know, like the Japanese myths and legends
Yeah.
kind of thing, and I thought that was a cool way to experience that by playing a game. But like
Definitely.
I said, I still haven't, you know, sat down and played it.
It's definitely one of the cooler, like, cultural sort of games about Japanese mythology. I think there's a way to skip cutscenes in this game. Try pressing triangle.
All right, I'll try that next time.
But anyway, the reason we're skipping cutscenes is because this game's storyline is not like particularly interesting or noteworthy. It's just like crazy shit, and just like Devil May Cry, the cutscenes are very long and over the top with just like shit happening. But the storyline in this game is like impossible to follow, so it's really not a concern. It's a game about the action, and that's how Clover/Platinum has always been. Their games are always about having really tight controls, lots of action, and just like intense, difficult games that pick up a lot in difficulty as they go along. Beautiful Joe, I remember me and Victor were playing it as kids, and we could never get past like the 4th world because it was so fucking hard, and it had like this rampant escalation in difficulty, which was a side-scrolling beat-em-up game that was, I mean, it's really good. Every game by this studio has always been pretty critically acclaimed.
Did Platinum make any fighting games?
No,
Okay.
they have not technically. Although they made Anarchy Reigns, which is kind of like a fighting game, but it's more of a brawler game. But in any case, they made those 3 games with Capcom as Clover. I don't think they made any others before Clover got dissolved, because Capcom, basically in the mid-2000s or like late 2000s, around the time that the new console generation came out of the PS3 and Xbox 360, Capcom just started making all kinds of decisions that pissed off all their fans. So Clover Studios got shut down. That pissed off a lot of Capcom fans. They stopped making Mega Man games. They just Mega Man Legends 3 getting canceled was a big deal. Just a lot of stuff. A lot of Capcom fans became disillusioned with the company, and they've sort of been struggling to get their fan base back.
Yeah,
But,
they are destroying their fan base, especially with the Monster Hunter series, because they refuse to release any of the good ones over here. On top of the fact that they are solely putting most of them on the Wii consoles, which I think is, you know, kind of like a middle finger to your fans in the U.S. that play the game, are used to playing the game. Because I played the classic PSP, and there was one on PS2.
The Monster Hunter games only come out in the Wii in Japan as well, though, right?
No, they
Because the Wii
what was
is
it?
by far the best-selling console in Japan, and that's why
yeah.
it makes sense to release them there. But
the ones, I think, like the last 2 we got were on Wii and Wii U, and there was one on 3DS.
it's
But
really odd that they've never brought Monster Hunter to PC, because it's kind of like, why
they've
not?
got Monster Hunter Online coming out for PC, I think, in March. I may be wrong, but there's talk about
Capcom's always been one of those studios that was reluctant to go to PC. I think Resident Evil 6 might be on PC.
Really?
Might be. Don't quote me on that, though. But they've always been they're just not a good studio when it comes to, like, customer relations. Like, they've had a long history of pissing off their consumer base.
Because
and
they don't care.
pissing off longtime fans.
It's obvious they don't care.
Like I said, the cancellation of Mega Man Legends 3 pissed a lot of people off. The cancellation of the Mega Man franchise as a whole led the guy who made the Mega Man games, who invented them, has gone on to, he's doing Mighty Number 9 now, which, if you've never heard of it, is a Kickstarter game that took off hugely. Like, the minute he made the fucking Kickstarter, it soared, because it's basically like he's making Mega Man. Like, all the character designs, everything in it looks exactly like Mega Man, but it's Mighty Number 9. It's got like a couple new gimmicks or whatever, but yeah, it was kind of a big deal. And in any case, Capcom, they also drove the Resident Evil series into the ground, because 5 and 6 are very strange games that pissed off a lot of longtime fans. I mean, Resident Evil 4 pissed off a lot of longtime fans because it doesn't play like the old games.
But you gotta
But it's an
understand,
amazing game. Like, Resident Evil 4 is fucking perfect.
a friend of mine, yes, it is. A friend of mine explained to me how, you know, the horror series works. You got to understand that they become action shooters and not survival horror per se,
exactly.
because the characters they're not afraid anymore. There's like you said, there's Resident Evil 4. There were 3 games before that. Leon was in 2 of the 3. I mean, it's following the exact story, because there's like 80 fucking Resident Evil games. But
Can you not skip this somehow?
I tried it. It's not letting me do it.
Press all the buttons on the controller. Oh, you got it somehow.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, skip. There you go.
But yeah, like Leon was in other games, so I'll say the infected because they're not technically zombies anymore. They don't scare him that much, so that's why they're action shooters now. So
yeah, I mean. They definitely, because the thing is, a lot of people don't like the old Resident Evil games because they're clunky and they're shitty anyway. From what I've seen, because they remade Resident Evil 1 on the GameCube, and that game looks phenomenal. I've watched a little bit of someone, it was on Game Grumps, they played it a little bit, and yeah, the Resident Evil 1 remake for GameCube is like really gorgeous looking. And so the Resident Evil franchise, I mean, debatably the first 3 games are still classics and could still be gone back to if you're playing like the GameCube version. The Resident Evil 4 was another Capcom, originally GameCube exclusive, that was the killer app on the GameCube when it was finally going. It was like the last game to come out for the GameCube, but it was considered like, wow, they finally did a really amazing, GameCube game. And I love it. I think it's a fantastic game. Hasn't necessarily, I mean, it's aged well, but it was the first like over-the-shoulder shooter game, and that genre has come a long way now.
Yes, it has.
But I definitely think it's still a fantastic shooter game in general. But Resident Evil 5 had a lot of issues. Resident Evil 6 is just fucking crazy. Some people have said it's a fun game because it's so over the top and crazy, but thinking of it as a Resident Evil game is just not gonna help. So basically, Capcom. And also, Capcom lost a lot of money on the game because they spent way too much fucking money on it. Like, that's one of the funny things about Capcom is they said, yeah, Resident Evil 6 was a disappointment even though it sold like 6 million copies. Jesus 6 million copies puts it... Like, this is the biggest problem facing game developers right now, is that they keep setting their expectations for sales crazy high, even though 6 million still puts it in like the top 20 highest games, like, ever sold that weren't packaged with consoles. It's still like way the fuck up there, and yet they still lost money on it because they spent so much money making it. And so basically Capcom in general doesn't know what they're doing is what we're getting at, but that all has nothing to do with this game. But I'm glad we're getting an amount of extra shit to talk about. You can press select to
yeah, I forgot about that. I was enjoying beating the shit out of the game.
But you got to actually play the game. If you're enjoying it just in the tutorials, that's when you know you're doing something right. And I'm going to address these load times in a minute, which is why I have not beaten this game. But we'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, what I was saying, Clover Studios, they got dissolved, they left Capcom, and they went to form their own studio, which they called Platinum.
Shit.
So Platinum Studios came out around the time of the new console generation. I can't remember what order the games came out in with Platinum, but I know that one of the first ones they did was Mad World on the Wii, which was another sort of beat-em-up game that's just like really gory and crazy and intense, and it's just meant to be like a fun, good time. It's similar to God Hand, but a little bit less deep, I think. And
I kind of want to play God Hand now. You keep talking about it.
God Hand is definitely a big cult hit. It's another game with a super huge... Almost every Platinum game picks up and challenge exponentially at some point if it's one of their longer games. Some of them you can just breeze through, like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, although that also has a super hard final boss.
Yeah,
and
if you don't know how to fucking beat them.
And, what's it called? Fucking... Vanquish, which is very easy. Oh god,
Vanquish was great. Recently, I'm talking like a month ago, maybe a month before that, I beat that game, and I enjoyed the shit out of that game. I wish it was longer. It was so intense. Yeah,
so Platinum did Mad World. I don't remember if they did something before Bayonetta, but I do remember that Bayonetta was how I sort of became familiar with the studio, because Don-san, who's our friend, mutual friend, was a huge fan of Clover Studios because of God Hand, and he was super excited about Bayonetta. He kept hyping it up for me and stuff like that, and so when this game came out, I was very aware of it and its lineage because of him.
Wow. And
this game has one of the deepest combo systems in any game, because literally, like pretty much any button combo you can put in is a different combo. Like, anything your imagination can come up with to do in this game is a combo. And when you're on loading screens, it lets you run around and it'll give you a list of combos and you can just test them out on the loading screens to figure out how to play the game. So the combo system's insanely deep and inventive and allows you to just get better at it through play. This game was, I believe, imagined by Shinji Mikami again. He actually worked with Platinum Studios to make this game, and the concept behind it was non-stop climax. That was their idea, was that they wanted it to be like crazy enemies would attack you out of nowhere. You'd have like boss level battles on a regular basis. They wanted the combat to be so intense that you could do just crazy shit to your enemies. Non-stop climax.
That beatdown I did to one of them earlier was pretty fucking legit.
I think this is still, Don-san still considers this their best game, the best Platinum game, because it's one of the longest, it's got the deepest combat system, so it's the most, like, replayable with the most additional shit to do in it, basically. And, they went on to then make Vanquish, which is pretty good. It's very short, but Vanquish is meant to be like an arcade-style game because they really designed it to play through it as many times as possible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it keeps like it times your level completions and stuff like that, and gives you lots of scoring and shit. There's a five extra difficulty levels and shit like that. So Vanquish is all about like how fast can you beat it, and it's kind of a shame that it didn't catch on in a big way because it would have been a great game to like have competitive, you know, playing like leaderboards and stuff like that, which maybe it does. I don't really know if there's a Vanquish community or anything, but it had definitely an interesting and inventive combat system. And then they did again Anarchy Reigns, which because they took a bit of a break in between Vanquish and Anarchy Reigns because I think Anarchy Reigns took a lot of time to work on, and it just was not successful. It was supposed to be. They were branching into multiplayer. They wanted to do an online game, so it's like an online brawler, and it just didn't come out as well as they hoped because it wasn't that deep, and the whole thing they're known for is really deep combat, and it didn't really have that, so it was probably their least successful game and least critically acclaimed game. But then they did Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which has sort of put them back in the public eye, especially because it's a Metal Gear game, so a lot more people are paying attention.
I am a enormous fucking Metal Gear Solid fan. I think it's the greatest game series of all time. So
there's a bunch of Metal Gear Solid videos that I need to show you sometime soon. I almost did yesterday, but I didn't feel like watching them. But I might do it after this game session.
Oh, here we
today.
go, fucking beatdown. Oh,
because two of my favorite channels, like for video game reviews, both have done all the Metal Gear Solid games. One of them is Matthew Matosis, who he's known for just making super long videos where he goes ludicrously in depth about the mechanics of a game, and he'll go through every single level and tell you what was good and bad about that level. So he did that with the entire Metal Gear Solid franchise. Then there's Super Bunny Hop, which they're a little bit more on the intellectual side with lots of talk about like the themes and stuff like that. And they did a couple of videos on up through Metal Gear Solid 3 called Critical Close-Ups, and those are fucking phenomenal. So I'll definitely show you those at some point.
Sweet.
But especially the Critical Close-Up ones. Those are must-watch videos. Anyone who's into video games should definitely, if you like analysis and critical looks at games, check out the Critical Close-Up Metal Gear Solid series.
This chick has some badass attacks.
Particularly for the second and third game. Yeah, you'll learn even more. Like I said, when you're on the loading screens, you'll have like a list of combos that you can learn and pick up.
Fuck yeah.
The only shame about the fact that we're playing this with no sound is that right now you would be hearing Fly Me to the Moon. That's
really?
the battle theme of this game is a funk version of Fly Me to the Moon, sung by a Japanese singer singing in English, of course. So yeah.
Fly me to the moon.
But anyway,
above the stars.
So yeah, that was a little history of Platinum Studios. Again, all their games are cult hits. This one is perhaps the most cult because of the fact that this game did not sell very well. Because it was a little bit controversial when it came out, because mostly there was a lot of focus on the fact that it's very sexualized, because Bayonetta's clothes are her hair, and she uses her hair in her attacks. So the longer your combo is, the more of her hair comes off, and the more of her body you see. So you gradually become naked when you do high-level techniques. And the Platinum games has always been very perverse and very, you know, their games are all about like old school very guy-like fun. You know, like their vision of what's just a good time. The storylines are stupid. The action is crazy. The girls are hot. You know, but
that's what I like. That's all I do.
Super Bunny Hop again has a video on Platinum Studios where he calls it like sort of just childlike and innocent in a way, where it's just like they're not trying to be mean or crude or anything like that. There's not like a lot of swearing and, you know, like rude dialogue. It's just straight up lots of fun, crazy shit happening because they feel like it. This game starts off with so many cutscenes. I'm pretty sure it's not like that through a lot of the game. It's just the starting part. They just wanted... I don't know what they were doing when they came up with giving it all this shit. By the way, this part, that time, like, I've seen people lose 6 times in a row on this part just because they don't kill every enemy fast enough. So be careful of that. But, anyway, yeah, that's sort of the history of the studio and what they're about. This game, surprisingly, everyone expected that there was never going to be a sequel to this game because they said they wanted to make one. And because it didn't sell, they weren't going to be able to. But there actually is, Bayonetta 2 is in development now for the Wii U. Because apparently Nintendo was the only company that wanted it.
Oh my god.
So there is a sequel coming out for the Wii U, hopefully, if it doesn't get canned because of the fact that the Wii U is not selling. Of course, Bayonetta 2 is not going to sell any as well because the Wii U is not selling. Although I know some people who were saying they were going to buy a Wii U just for that game if it looks good.
Fuck! Missed it again.
But, oh yeah, you ready for some crazy shit? Oh, what the fuck is this guy doing?
This isn't even my final form!
But yeah, Bayonetta 2 hopefully coming out soon. And yeah, so we're gonna see what it's like. That's all I've got to say about Platinum Games. What else do you want to talk about?
Shit. Why she isn't a character in any fighting game right now? Because this chick is pretty fucking amazing. They had Dante in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Right. And he's in Project...
Again, it's probably just because she didn't sell. I mean, Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance was in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
That game.
Let's just say there's a reason that you haven't exactly seen a competitive...
Oh my god!
Now you understand.
Jesus Christ!
Non-stop climax.
Oh. I just put that dude's head in a guillotine.
Yeah. And then there's gonna be all this shit, and then I think you're gonna have to fight her. Again, there's way too much fucking cutscene in this game.
I'm actually enjoying this one. This one's got action in it.
They all did. You just skipped them before I got to it.
Oh, okay.
But it's always like this. It's always just this ridiculous fucking like synchronized dance of an action sequence. Oh, and then here comes a Mack truck.
Throws a truck at us.
It's so fucking ludicrous and over the top.
Alright, skip time.
I'm in Yahtzee's camp when it comes to cutscenes like this, because they do the same thing in Devil May Cry, and Yahtzee's criticism has always been, I want to play the cool stuff. I want to do the cool stuff. I don't want to watch the cool stuff. I want to do the cool stuff.
Yeah, I've got a friend that's like that. I remember when I played Final Fantasy's Dirge of Cerberus, which I thought was a pretty decent game. But you could do stuff in the cutscenes that he couldn't do in the game, and I thought that was retarded.
Final Fantasy is pretty bad about that, because ever since Advent Children, they've been about these crazy action scenes.
Yeah,
and it's funny because I think a lot of it comes from not just like I think Final Fantasy Advent Children is a big cause of this happening, because that right around the time that movie came out is when games like Devil May Cry started having crazier shit, and like the Shinji Mikami thing, and then Final Fantasy games kept having crazier cutscenes after that movie, and then there was the whole Dead Fantasy series. Have you seen those?
It's the characters, the fan-made characters from Final Fantasy, like dancing and stuff, or were they action videos?
Kind of, yeah.
Like that?
Because originally the first one that came out in like 2003 was Master Chief versus Samus, and it was like this big battle, and then it turns out Master Chief's a girl, and then they I think they make out or something, and then there's a big dance sequence.
Yeah. And
it was very popular, and then it spawned the Dead Fantasy series, which is where it's 3 Final Fantasy characters and 3 Dead or Alive characters having this epic battle royale. It was a 3-part video, and it's just like crazy, over-the-top action scenes that this guy put together. and they were very popular, and it's like right around the time that those videos took off is when Final Fantasy started to look like Dead Fantasy, you know?
Really?
Like, I mean, Advent Children already basically was the same kind of thing, but then it just progressively kept being like, okay, we're reaching this point where people just want to see these over-the-top action scenes. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people do enjoy them, but like Victor loves that kind of shit. He'll just be like, oh yeah, look at all that crazy shit they did. And I'm just like, I want to do the crazy shit, or I want to get back to the game, you know. Especially in a game like this where there's so much that you have to learn, you know, to play it well. Because you're not even at the first level yet, and we've been talking for 25 minutes.
Really?
It's just been like tutorials and cutscenes so far.
So.
And I realize that this game must look absolutely insane to anyone watching, and I assure you it's exactly how we feel playing. like whatever confusion you're experiencing right now, we are feeling the same.
When you brought up Advent Children, reminded me, I saw a post on Facebook of a friend of mine. She's a huge Final Fantasy fan, one of my classmates actually, and she is currently playing the demo for Final Fantasy 13-3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
She posted that on Facebook.
Oh, wait, no, I do know about that.
And
Lightning
all the
Returns.
comments, all the comments were like, why? Like, and one guy was like, that game didn't even deserve a first sequel. Why does it get a second one? And I was just like, Jesus. I personally love Final Fantasy. Final Fantasies 7 and 8, I think, are, you know, top tier, like the best Final Fantasies ever created. 10 was pretty good.
Hold
10-2
on. Have
was
you played
excessive.
all of the Final Fantasies ever created?
Yeah. Well, not all of them, but all of the ones that, you know, all of the
Have you played
better...
6?
I didn't play 6.
Okay, well, see, 6...
Actually, was 6 the one with
Kefka?
Kefka, yeah, I did play 6 then.
Alright. Well, at least you've played 6. That's
yeah,
the
I played 6.
The most popular one against, like...
I played 1 through 3. I don't remember whether or not I played 4, because I had an emulator, and I tried to play all of the earlier ones.
Great.
So, but yeah, I think 7 and 8 are the best, and 10 was pretty great, but 10-2 was kind of excessive, because Tidus wasn't, you know...
You're gonna keep going here, pal?
I'm trying to save. But, yeah, she was just telling me about...
Oh my god.
Or how
Go let the cat in, I'll hold the controller.
Yeah.
Oh wait, why did I let you get up when you were the one who was mid-sentence?
Yeah.
Well, you're closer to the door. It's still saving anyway, like, this is taking 9 fucking years, but... I guess because it's probably creating the whole save file or something.
No, I'd already...
Well, it's been saving for a little while now.
I'd overwritten.
But, yeah, whatever you were saying.
Oh, she posted that on Facebook, and everyone was just pretty much talking shit, because 13... Oh, I was talking about how I played 13 to humor it, because I have 13 and 13 too. And I really liked the concept, I liked the characters, except for Hope. And then I got to this one boss fight where it's just Lightning and Hope. And Hope is a completely fucking useless character. He has, like, almost... I guess I may be wrong, because this was the beginning of the game, like I said. It was a giant fish I was fighting.
Uh-huh.
And it was raping me, pretty much. So I looked up how to beat it, figured out how to beat it. Every time I would get him to the last attack I had to do to kill him, like the final blow, he would do a one-hit kill and destroy my party. And I was just like, fuck this game, done with Final Fantasy 13. It's over. I don't want to play it anymore. And one of my friends was just like, he was like, every Final Fantasy game is like that. I was like, no, they are fucking not, because I've played other Final Fantasy games and I've beat them. There's one-hit kill attacks, but they're avoidable, or you can kill, you know, you can kill the enemy in time, like before it gets to that point. And 13 makes me feel like if you don't do everything a certain way before a certain boss battle, then you have to restart the entire game because you can't get past it. And I think that's kind of fucking retarded. Right. That's a stupid way to play a game.
Or grinding.
Yeah, grinding pretty much. Like, if you don't go and boost all your characters before a boss fight that you don't know is coming, then you're fucked.
Yeah, like, that's how I felt. Because the point where I got stuck in Final Fantasy X and I quit playing, because almost all the Final Fantasies, I've played them, but I've never beaten them. In fact, yeah, I don't think I've ever beaten a Final Fantasy game.
Really?
And there was a time when I owned all of them. Every single one. I think except, like, 3, because that hadn't come out yet for the DS, so there was no way to get it in the US. But I had 1 and 2 on the GBA. I almost beat 1, and then it got lost. And 2 is not as good as 1. It's just kind of ugly. And then, because I was trying to complete my full bestiary in Final Fantasy 1, because that's like the completionist thing you can do, is that you have a list of all the monsters in the game, so you know you can go find the harder to find monsters and shit like that, and try to kill them. And
oh, I forgot about 12. My bad, didn't mean to cut you off. I thoroughly enjoyed the way 12 was set up. That weird medieval-esque futuristic universe. That's probably my favorite universe of all of them.
That's the same universe as the Tactics games.
I played Tactics 2, I think.
Tactics Advance?
Yeah, whichever one was the second one.
The Game Boy Advance one was the second one.
Well, I played it on the emulator, so...
The first one, Final Fantasy Tactics 1 for the GBA, supposedly has one of the best storylines in video games. It's written by the same guy as Vagrant Story, and I guess that guy is considered like a champion of writing quality in games. You gotta go to that fucking wall and beat it up.
What is she doing here?
Go beat up that...
What is this?
No.
She's just dancing.
Attack this wall. Anyway, yeah, so Final Fantasy. I played 1 and 2, never played 3. I don't remember playing 4 either. The real 4, not because a lot of people are confused about the numbers because of the fact that Final Fantasy 2 in the US was Final Fantasy 4 in Japan. Final Fantasy 3 in the US was Final Fantasy 6 in Japan. But I'm referring to them by the Japanese numbers. So Final Fantasy V, I played a little bit of. It was confusing. A lot of people like that game because it has like a really crazy job system, and I'm like, that's exactly the last thing I want to hear. Is that like, oh yeah, it's the best Final Fantasy because it's the most complicated, and I'm like, no thanks. I'll go play the simple ones. But Final Fantasy VI, I played like half of, I think, never finished. 7, I got to the end of disc 1 and then just never finished it.
Don't you still have your original PlayStation copy of Final Fantasy VII?
No, because it was stolen.
What?
By Stoney. Remember Stoney?
Yeah.
He borrowed 7 and 8, and I'm pretty sure he sold them for weed. So yeah. Because all they had was a PS1, and they borrowed those games, and I'm pretty sure they never played them, and I'm pretty sure they sold them for weed. Anyway, Final Fantasy VIII, I thought I didn't like 8 at all when I was playing it because I thought the storyline was boring, but then again, I was also like, what, 14, so I don't know, maybe I'd enjoy it more today. 9 was my favorite though, and the reason I stopped playing 9 is because there's a point in the game where the bad guy captures you. I don't remember his name. Cujo? Maybe?
Cujo, yeah.
Cujo captures you, and he tells you that you need to take 2 of your party and go to this dungeon, right?
Oh my...
Yeah.
Jesus.
You need to take 2 of your party to go to this these 2 dungeons, and you're going to send 2 to each. And I wasn't really paying attention to what he was saying, or I didn't understand the implications of what he was saying. But basically, in one of the dungeons, you can't use magic. And I didn't catch that. So I brought Vivi and Zidane to the dungeon. So I bring the 2 of them, and Vivi is a magician. So none of his attacks work in this dungeon. And so I had already saved since getting there, and I didn't keep multiple save files back then because I thought it was a pain in the ass, right? So I literally could not fight. I was fucked. I couldn't do anything. Like, Vivi couldn't use any magic. Zidane wasn't strong enough to kill the enemies. And I couldn't, like, whatever I was supposed to do, it involved killing an enemy. Like, I couldn't just run through and run away from battles. There was some certain enemy I had to kill, and I couldn't do it. So I was like, I'm literally fucked. I have no options here. And I thought that was fucking bogus, but...
Yes.
What are you doing?
I was supposed to dodge the lightning.
Oh, I see.
So I am Jesus! Oh, I wasted too much time. You want to touch me?
I guess you had to do it again, probably.
Does she have, like, unlimited air or something? Oh, no, there's steps here. Okay.
Anyway, whatever I was saying. Yeah, that's why I stopped playing 9. Then with 10... I gave up on the 3rd time that you have to fight the evil dude. You know, the guy who tries to marry Yuna and all that shit. Like, after you've already stopped the wedding and all that, there's a 3rd time where you're up in the mountains that you have to fight him. This is like close to the end of the game. And he shows up, and I was under-leveled, and it was like a case of I didn't have enough potions to really... Because there's always that point in a game like that where if you're in the area and the regular enemies are fucking you up, then, and you're just trying to like you're trying to run through and get to the boss, but then it's like, oh, well, you have to grind, and I'm like, but the regular enemies are fucking me up, and I can't go back. So again, I didn't have multiple save files because I just didn't do that back then. And
I didn't do that either.
And so I was fucked. And I think that's complete bullshit game design.
That's what I'm saying.
If you can get fucked over to the point that you need multiple fucking saves, I hate that shit.
I think that's a broken game, honestly.
But, yeah, so that's why I stopped playing 10. Never tried 10-2. And I never owned 10-2, so that's one of the ones I didn't have. 11, I remember we got it for the 360, and I played it for literally 5 minutes.
I didn't know it came out on the 360. I thought it was a PC-only game.
It was 360 and PC.
Okay, Microsoft exclusive then.
And it was so ugly and so confusing that I couldn't play it.
It was ugly.
It was ugly and confusing. I had no fucking idea what was happening. I was just like, what's going on? This makes no sense. Like, it didn't give me any real guidance, and I was just like, fuck this game. I quit. And I know it was a pretty big MMO and everything, but I just was, I went, nope, like immediately.
We're talking about, now remember, these are our opinions. We are not, just talking shit. But you reminded me of what I consider a shit game, fucking Dead Rising.
Dead Rising?
I played Dead Rising 2 with my roommate, and I was enjoying it because I was like, this is alright. This is a cool game. You can kill zombies and shit. This is cool.
Right. We
got to a point where I died, and the game told me I had to restart because I never saved my game. I had to. We had cleared, like, if you don't, people who don't know, Dead Rising, it's timed. You have, I think it's 3 days in-game time to stop the virus or something like that. And like I said, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 hours, but I'm pretty sure it was 2. But I had destroyed, me and him had destroyed like 3 or 4 fucking bosses, and I died because of one. I think I got jumped or something like that. It was a shitty way to die, pretty much. And the game told me I had to restart because I never saved. I didn't realize that the game had no autosave feature, so I was like, yep, never playing this game again, done with it. Because that just pissed me off, like, beyond.
That's happened to me countless times in games, just in general, though. Like, the number of times that I've been killed by my, not saving is ridiculous.
Like, I think that is a shit way to design a game, that there's no autosave.
Well, you gotta remember, autosave is kind of a new feature.
But there's no buffer for, if you don't realize you have to go save at some point. There's no way to save yourself from that anger, pretty much. I guess I should say, like, there's no way to save yourself.
I don't know. I think that's very debatable, and I think a lot of commenters will probably say it's your fault or that you're a noob or casual, but I understand your pain. I would have stopped playing, too.
Yeah, I haven't played Dead Rising since then. That angered me, like, so
Dead Rising is definitely meant to be an incredibly difficult game. Like, the first one especially is brutal, but, yeah, back to Final Fantasy. Played a little bit of 12, and that was where I stopped on the series, just because I wasn't into it enough to keep going. I didn't care about the characters or anything in that game.
I really liked 12.
And it was I remember the moment that I officially realized that the game was bullshit was when
oh god.
Because I think I had the strategy guide for Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah, I borrowed it from you guys because you had the collector's edition.
Man,
yeah, I still have your stuff.
Fuck, we've known each other for too long.
Yeah, I still have all your.
Because this is like distant memories for me. Yeah. But yeah, 12. I had the strategy guide, and there's a moment because I was trying to sort of like semi-completionist play it, right? I was like, I want to get all the secret objects and shit like that because I'd never done that before in one of these games. I was like, I want to actually try to find everything. And I was in this town, and the strategy guide literally said something to the effect of, there's a barrel in this town that if you, I don't remember if it was if you break it or if you don't break it, but it was one or the other, and it was if you fail this, you will not be able to get one of the ultimate items, ultimate weapons or whatever. And I sat there and I went, hold on.
Hold on, let me let you finish.
There's a barrel in this town. And whether or not I break it is later going to dictate whether or not I get one of the ultimate weapons in the game. And the game has told me no indication of this.
Oh, Jesus.
There was no NPC, there was no anything to suggest which barrel this was. And of course the guide was not even specific enough, so I'm like, did I do it right? Did I get the right thing? And it was the most baffling. I was just, why? Why would you put that in a game that such a specific unmarked thing would have such a huge consequence? And that was when I realized the game was fucking bullshit, and I think I stopped playing it after that. Just
JRPGs, man.
It's not all of them, but Final Fantasy's pretty bad about it. And I feel like in that case, it was to sell strategy guides, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because they make stuff like that, and this has always been a thing with video games, because Nintendo used to do it back in the day with Nintendo Power. They'd put something in the game that was so ridiculously hard to figure out that you needed to have Nintendo Power because it would tell you how to do it. And there were some games that were really bad and egregious about that, and I felt like that was the case for Final Fantasy XII in that one instance. Regardless of whether the rest of the game is good or not, that one thing pissed me off a lot. By the way, this is like as far as I've ever gotten in Bayonetta myself. Like, this is like right here.
Oh yeah,
I've only ever played it for a few hours.
Yeah,
or
bitch.
an hour, maybe.
Get that guillotine! Yo! Death grips.
Oh god, that was perfect. we gotta do that one more time. with the it goes leading up to it.
It goes.
Just let me know when the time comes.
Alright. I'll try to do it again.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, so I've never played 13 or 13-2 or 13 Lightning Returns. I have no interest. Never played 14 or 14 A Realm Reborn. I'm sure most people know about 14, but in case you don't, that was a game that it's the second MMORPG after they had shut down Final Fantasy XI, which, mind you, Final Fantasy XI was a huge game in Japan. Ooh. Like, very long-lived and successful MMO game over there. I don't think it did as well here. But they made 14 to be the second MMO game, and when it came out, it was so broken and terrible that they had to pull it almost like within like a month, I think. They had to pull it down and apologize for it.
Yep, and then refund everyone their money.
Right.
Or actually, I think they gave them a ticket to get
to the second game,
the new one for free.
So then they remade it as A Realm Reborn, and
it just doesn't end. This game just doesn't end.
It's
oh
it's
Jesus!
Non-stop climax.
I don't understand.
But yeah. So,
oh god.
A Realm Reborn, Victor and Donson, I think, bought it, and they were enjoying it at first, but they said that it's just really tedious. Like, because it kind of has a little bit more of an action-oriented combat system, which is where MMOs are going these days. Terra Online is, to my mind, the best of them. Phantasy Star Online's been doing it forever.
Oh my god!
But and Phantasy Star Universe, I think, was the first MMO to like really have the combat, or even Monster Hunter, if that counts as an MMO. But either one of them has like a very strong combat system for an MMO game, and that started to become the norm with games like what's it called? Neverwinter, the new MMO, not Neverwinter Nights, but Neverwinter. And A Realm Reborn, but Victor and Donson said that the game it's all grinding and it gets very boring very quickly because there's not a lot to do, I guess, and so they quit playing it after about a week or so. But they both said, I think, that it was really gorgeous, at least.
Yeah, I watched Victor play it when he got it. It's really pretty.
Can you pick that axe up? You can totally. Oh, it shrank, but you got it at least.
And I got a trumpet too. Oh, you can. I like this game a fucking lot. This game is really fucking cool. Like, it's been a minute since I've played something I really liked, and this so far is really good.
That reminds me, we're pretty much done with the Final Fantasy rant, so I'm just going to get to something I've been putting off for a little bit. But have you noticed that every single time you pick up an item, there's a little screen that says loading? And it's kind of a little bit ridiculous.
I didn't notice, but
every single time you've picked up an item, it loads up and it shows you the item, right? And the loading screens in this game in general are not like that. It was with the
that. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Like when I would get an item that I keep, that's what you mean. Okay.
So the load times in this game are awful, and the game also has some frame rate issues, but only on the PS3 version. This is like the only case of a game where the PS3 version is actually worse than the Xbox 360 one in terms of how it runs. And the reason, the company you could thank for that is fucking Sega. Sega made a shit port of this game, because originally it was an Xbox 360 only game. By when Platinum first made it, and then they decided they were going to port it over to PS3, and they hired Sega to do the port. Sega not only took forever making the port, which is why the game was delayed to come to the US, because it took too long for them to make it, even though all of the dialogue is in English, even in the Japanese version of the game. Like, the English and Japanese versions have the same dialogue track.
Really?
Platinum does that with, like, all their games, I think.
That just sounds lazy, though. I mean... Wow.
It's because they think it's... Because the games are hilarious, like, in terms of the dialogue. It's always, like... It's actually English voice actors, but they're speaking, speaking English, but the dialogue is always very strange. And Platinum's done this with, I think, all of their games, even, with the exception of maybe Okami, if that's really Clover. I could be wrong about that, incidentally, but I think I'm right. In any case,
I saw a red bird.
They like putting the dialogue in English, which is why Don-san was pissed that it took them so long to port this game to the US when all the dialogue was in English anyway. But it was because Sega took forever to make their port to the PS3, and the port is a piece of shit. The 360 version has better frame rate, better load times, and it pisses me off personally because of the item thing. Like, I can't stand that this is this super fast-paced, action-heavy game, and yet I get interrupted every couple of minutes when I pick up an item because it loads to show you it, And that shit drives me fucking crazy.
Oh, God, what do I do? Oh, he ate my friends.
Try beating down the gate, maybe? Or no, just
that.
hit him when he bites down, I guess.
I'm supposed to go into witch mode and then go slow-mo. Oh, damn it. Yeah, you gotta go witch and slow-mo it, so, like, while the head's here, I can attack it.
The enemies in this game look fucking crazy. Just look at that shit. Just what is
it?
That?
Looks like the hair dragon thing I released earlier. That, like, ate that boss?
Yeah, I think it's the same, like, cause basically, you're a witch,
there we go.
And I think you're part of, like a witch clan, but you've defected or something, so, like I said, the storyline is, like, really weird in this game, but basically, you're fighting your former teammates, or your former league, or something like that.
I was dodging, what the fuck?
Try to get through that gate if you can, because this seems like, or no, that's right, I think you only have to get him down by 1/3 of his life, and then he'll go away for a little bit, and that's why it seems like it takes way too long.
See, I dodged that, but apparently I can't dodge these heads. Let me try it again.
Maybe it's because they got teeths.
Them teethus. There we go. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You gotta do that.
Nice. Yeah, this is definitely from the class, because the reason Don-san loves this game so much is that he is, as you may know, all about action games that are just skill-based and, like, twitch reflex-based, where the better, like, the more you practice, the better you get. He's a guy who's beaten Devil May Cry 3 on the highest difficulty. He's beaten Ninja Gaiden, on the highest difficulty. Sigma, so anyway. And I don't remember if he beat Bayonetta on the highest difficulty, but I feel like he probably did.
He probably did. It's Don-san, so...
I know he played it at least twice, but he always said that he regretted not playing it as much because he loaned it out a lot to Victor and Brandon and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a game that the more skilled you are at dodging and coming up with combos, the better time you'll have.
I might have to use an item.
And you have to figure out how first. Try a different select.
Fuck.
Try select.
I did select, nothing happened.
Why is it loading? It's clearly not this menu.
Yeah, I hit select and nothing.
Try the R and L buttons, triangle, and the pad button.
I tried the pad. That's what that is right there.
Do you have any items?
Oh God, yeah. I don't want to die yet.
Like I said, I think you only need to get him down by like 1/3 of his life, and he'll open the gate, and he'll like keep coming back. But I could be wrong.
There we go.
I've run out of things to talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Death Grips.
Death Grips? Are you a Death Grips fan?
Yeah, I'm a Death Grips fan.
How much Death Grips have you actually listened to?
I haven't listened to that new album that you got yet.
Government Plates?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Death Grips fan. One of my favorite bands. This is the only band, like music-wise, that I'm in the fandom of.
Look at that score I got. That's shit-tastic.
Like, regardless of, I am a fan of a lot of bands, but Death Grips has this really interesting fandom because of the fact that they are so mysterious, because they do all kinds of weird shit, and they're constantly trying to like hide themselves from the public eye and stuff, and they release stuff very cryptically. So their fan base is always trying to interpret what they do and shit, and like try to figure out facts about them. So if you hang out on like their fan Reddit and shit, they're constantly coming up with theories and stuff. But Death Grips is a really cool band. Everybody go listen to them. It looks like some kind of... I have no fucking idea what's happening.
Oh shit.
This kind of shit is the stuff I don't deal with in fucking action games. I'm just like, it's a thing, that's for sure.
Oh, right.
Oh, you made a green herb lollipop. Is that like a healing item?
I would assume so.
Okay.
I can't make it on my own.
I can't make it on my own.
That damn song.
Come up with something to talk about. We're running on dead air here. We're at about 50 minutes.
50 minutes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this game so far. You know, this is a good game.
What about it appeals to you?
The combat mainly, and I like the really stylish characters. Like her attacks are very weird and
unique to her.
Yeah,
is a good way to put it. It's very. This game came out at a time when Ben Yahtzee Croshaw had been calling a bunch of games like God of War, but he had it as like a title because of the fact that this was around the same time that Darksiders came out, God of War 3 came out, and something else that was also similar. But with this one, it was more like Devil May Cry than God of War. But it's definitely more unique movement. Have you ever played Darksiders?
I refuse.
So you've never played it before?
Nope, I don't want to play it.
That game is... Darksiders is a weird case of a game that's like... It's well put together in a way. Like, I get where it sounded like a good idea on paper, but all it does is... It's really just... They took a bunch of good ideas from other games and just threw them all into this game really lazily and did nothing to make it like original or interesting.
You're right.
It plays like if you took The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and combined it with God of War, you would get Darksiders. And that sounds fine because those are good games, but it just doesn't do it. It just doesn't have the same, you know, like spark or energy or anything of those games. It's got like a bit of an adventurous, because I almost, like when I first started playing it, I was like, this is kind of alright. The combat is boring, right? Because it's just the same shit over and over again. Personally, I think the combat in God of War is boring as well. And the reason for that is that when God of War 1 came out, it was unique, you know, and people got into it because the combat was really visceral.
Right.
It was
I loved God of War 1. I thought it was a great fucking game.
I loved it when I played it back in 2005, you know, but it was so visceral and exciting, and there was nothing quite like it yet.
Because that dude just... Kratos
he would tear the fucking
he's
heads
one of
off
the greatest
people and...
video game characters of all time because of how he was an animal. Like, he just destroyed everything.
That was what made it special, was that, I mean... And, you know, you could say, oh, well, it's just violent bullshit, but at the same time, and it was, but it wasn't like Mortal Kombat. It wasn't like anything else. It just... The viscera of his character, that he was so angry, and you knew why. You knew why he was so angry.
Just an angry
he was just
man.
This crazy, angry, psychotic fucking person. And he's not even a good guy, really. Like, Yahtzee said about the third game, where he was like, you know, you can't even root for him yourself, because, like, he'll destroy the entire Earth to get his vengeance. He's not a good guy, you know. You're kind of playing as a crazy villain, and...
Oh, you can't do it during fights, I guess.
And you murder people constantly who don't even deserve it, you know, because you're trying to get your revenge. But the level of viscera and the level of, like, catharsis that you could get from tearing something's head off in that game was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
I just did that. And it got a little bit tiring by the end of the game, but there was a lot of puzzles and downtime. Just like that video we watched yesterday, The Importance of Quiet Time by Super Bunny Hop, because they talked about how, you know, and I've always known that that's the point of the puzzles in God of War, because the puzzles in God of War don't really take thought. They take a minute of thought. You know, you look at it for a minute, you try something, it doesn't work, and then you go, oh, now I get it. And then you do the puzzle. And it's not that it's particularly thought-provoking, but what made the puzzles good in the first God of War is that they made them interesting through what you were doing.
Here's what's pissing me off. I just want to use the item. Okay, there we go. I don't know why you have to do all this fucking concocting.
You probably can assign it to a...
oh, yeah, I probably should do that, too. Hold on.
Yeah. Let's see... Set. There you go.
And then
it'll be on that button. So when you press left on the pad when you're in combat, it should use the item.
Okay, there we go.
And anyway, so yeah, what you would actually do in the puzzles, like not how what you had to think about or what you had to like look at, but you would literally have a puzzle where you've got a guy in a cage, and you have to push him across a room into a furnace.
Yeah,
and the furnace
like
would burn him alive to open up the next room. And it's like, actually pushing him around was not exciting. But the fact of what you were doing was what made it like, holy shit, I am doing this to
Kratos
a person.
Is just talking to this poor guy. Listen, I got nothing against you, alright? I just gotta be.
And it wasn't even a matter of like, you don't even really feel good about it. Like, that's not really the point. I think there was a lot of people who will. Those be like, oh yeah, I totally fucked that guy up. But for me, it was more about, it actively disturbed me what I was doing. Like, oh my god, I just burned that guy alive, you know? But it was interesting as a character. God, you actually got that on your first try. A lot of people fucked that up because if you had waited like half a second more, it would have killed you.
Oh, okay.
It's so obnoxious. There are some quick time events in this game that are kind of annoying.
This dude just doesn't give up.
Nope.
Ah! Wait!
You had to run.
Oh!
See, it's obnoxious that it doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do there. I think that's a bad design choice, but the funny thing about this game is that most of the worst design choices are at the start of the game. Like, the weird tutorials, the constant cutscenes, the, like, parts that doesn't tell you what to do is all, like, front-loaded. But, yeah. What the fuck was I going on about? God of War. So, yeah, back then it was fresh and exciting and new. And then they made like 5 more God of War games, and a bunch of people made copycat God of War games, you know? So, like, by the time God of War 3 came around, you get it. It's like, I get it.
I get it.
I get Kratos is an angry guy. He does a lot of violent things. Like, I remember I played about not even halfway. I played a significant amount of God of War 3, and I was just bored by it, because I was like, the combat system hadn't changed at all since the first one, you know? I'm still doing the lunge, whip, or the sword,
dodge.
With, you know, cut, throw, and then, like, I'm still tearing Minotaur's eyes out, and I was like, this is the same shit I was doing in the first God of War, and since then, you've had games like Bayonetta come out, where they have these intense combo systems, and, you know, this, like, deep, involving combat gameplay, and I was like, the whole visceral thing doesn't work anymore, and we've had games like Gears of War where the gore and the violence and the intensity of what you're doing
that game
has been, you know, I don't know that Gears of War tops God of War, but it's the same kind of thing. So we've had our violence, we've had our viscera, and God of War is old hat now, you know? It just doesn't survive in the modern
this guy's attack
game
is
landscape
annoying.
the way it did back then. And
just fall off already, fucker.
And the thing about Darksiders is that it completely copies the way that the combos and the viscera works in that game, where in Darksiders you tear the wings off of bats and you know, punch people's heads until they explode, but it has no actual gore, because it's like I think it's either teen or M, but it's obviously aimed at teens,
yeah, it's
right?
teen.
And it really feels like something that is made for like 13-year-old boys
That's
who
why I
are
didn't
Spawn
like it.
fans.
It looks like something for a fucking child. Like, down to the character design of Death. Because you play as Death in the first one, right?
No, that's the second one.
Okay, well, whichever.
Both of them look...
They look like fucking children's characters.
Right. And, like, when I was playing it, it took me back, because in the 90s, my cousin Boyd, who you know...
Yeah.
He was big into like demons and monsters and shit like that. He was a big Spawn fan, you know.
Yeah,
and Todd McFarlane is the one who designed the Darksiders characters, the guy who did Spawn. And when I was playing the game, I was sitting there going, when Boyd was 13, this would have been his favorite game of all time, you know, or when he was younger, even if he was like 16. When he was a teenager, Darksiders would have fucking rocked his world because it's about demons. It's got lots of, you know, cool-looking demons. It's got adventure. It's got action. And it's just a basic, like, game that is fun, but not for any real reason. It just kind of is a game you can play. And if you've never played any other game like it, of course you're going to have fun. If you've never played God of War or Zelda, Darksiders is going to be completely new to you. And you're going to be like, whoa, this game's fucking awesome, you know?
When I was in the Marines, I had a roommate that played Darksiders 2, and I was just like, I kept asking him, I was like, you're a grown man. How are you enjoying this game? And he was like, I don't know, man. I don't have much else to play. Because, like, he was one of those people that all they play is, like, Call of Duty and shit. He was one of those guys, so I was just like... Ugh.
Yeah, and I understand that, because I've often said that... Because I've known a lot of people who like shitty games, or games that I know are shitty.
Yeah.
Throughout my life. I've known a lot of people like that, and 9 times out of 10, they haven't played much else.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the times, their favorite video game... It's their favorite because it's the best of the ones they've owned. And I knew a lot of people who, like in the PS2 era, the PS2 was the cheaper console. And there was a lot of shitty games for that were cheap.
But they were
So I had
cheap.
a lot of friends who I would see their collection, and it would be, you know, because it's like their mom buys them games and they have no budget and they're just buying cheap shit. So I'd look at their selection, and a game like that, which is at least a AAA game, would be the best thing in their collection, you know, where they'd have, like, all these movie games, a lot of them, you know, they'd have, like, the Terminator game
Spider-Man
or some
2.
shit.
Spider-Man 2, man.
Oh, Spider-Man 2 was supposedly
It was pretty fucking great.
a classic, so that doesn't
Spider-Man
count.
2 was fucking great.
But, they'd always have a lot of movie games and all these, like, you know, low-end games that I was like, well, this is why they like this shitty game, because it's the best one in their collection, you know? And that's understandable, and a lot of people are nostalgic for shitty games for that reason. And it's no different, I think, now this is going to be a controversial statement, because people love this fucking game, but I think that's the only reason Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is popular.
The nostalgia?
Yeah.
Because I think that game is pretty fun. Fun. I didn't say good, I said
Go,
fun.
when was the last time you played Sonic Adventure 2?
I got it off Steam and I played it.
Sonic Adventure 2's on Steam?
Yeah.
And did you enjoy anything that wasn't a Sonic or Shadow level?
No. No.
Because Victor, okay, I've been defending that Sonic Adventure
funny.
2 is awful, right? And I've been saying this for a couple years now. And Victor was trying to defend it, because that was his favorite game of all time forever.
I think
right?
he got it off Steam too.
Really?
Yeah, it's on fucking Steam.
Wow. But me and Victor were playing it when we were kids. We grew up with that game. I completely understand why people like it. I grew up with it. The story for me as a kid was really moving. You know, like, it was the first game I ever played that made me feel emotions. Because
it made me feel.
Right, exactly. Because, you know, Shadow was this badass character if you're like 10. You know, then he's super cool because he's the dark, brooding guy, you know. He has no personality whatsoever, but that doesn't matter when you're a kid.
He solely exists
looks
to be
cool.
the opposite of Sonic.
Right. And the game had, like, the moon gets blown up, the guy's his daughter had died, you know, Shadow dies at the end. It was a moving experience as a kid, and it had pretty well-directed cutscenes.
This game is so ridiculous.
But, yeah, it actually had pretty well-directed cutscenes, and I can even say that today. But it's stupid, and the story is stupid, and if you play it now...
It's a Sonic game!
Right. But as a kid, it was really interesting and involving,
yeah.
right? Because the thing is, you say it's a Sonic game, but a lot of people are really defensive about Sonic Adventure 2. Like,
There'll probably be people defending it in the comments. So.
Right. And Victor was telling me about how, like, one of the most obnoxious experiences he's had was when him and Brandon Tolentino went to JMU one time, and there was like a bunch of people were they were live streaming themselves playing Sonic Adventure 2, and like it's this classic game that they're all playing, and it was like, I tuned into the live stream for a little bit, and I was like, this is the most miserable thing I've ever seen. This game makes me want to die. Because the later levels, like when you get to the later Eggman levels, where they're in space.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, it is some of the worst level design I've ever seen in a video game.
They're really fucking, you have to glitch through most of them because they're just so ridiculous.
There's parts where you literally are like, using the space jump to go up a bunch of platforms for like 5 minutes, and if you fuck up, which is very easy, yeah, and I was just like, this is the worst game design I've ever seen, right? But anyway, I was trying to tell Victor that Sonic Adventure 2 is awful, and that if he went back and played it, he'd realize that, and he kept saying, the Sonic levels are awesome, the Shadow levels are awesome, and I went, Victor, because I remember this shit because I read the strategy guide as a kid. Like, that's what I used to do.
That's what I used to do.
When
too.
Victor, well, I don't mean when I was playing. I mean when Victor and Boyd used to play video games growing up, I would read them the strategy guide. That's basically how, like, because I haven't played a lot of these older games myself. Like, I've played maybe half of Sonic Adventure 2, but I never even beat it. I would just read Victor the strategy guide while he played it so that he could get, like, Chaos Chows and stuff like that and find secret shit. And
I was poor, so when I couldn't play video games, I would read the strategy guide.
Wow.
Yeah,
but
man, some people had it rough, man.
That's amazing. I've never heard of that before.
Some niggas had it rough, man.
It would have been so much better for you in today's world with YouTube, where you can just watch, because that's why Let's Plays are so popular. Because people
that can't afford video games.
Right, because a lot of the people who watch Let's Plays are all kids, and it's because they can't afford the games, so they just watch other people play them.
Right.
But I know that because my cousins do it. Boyd's little brothers, they do that shit. But anyway, fucking Sonic Adventure 2, he was like, I was sitting there going, Victor, look, I know that game like the back of my hand, because I used to read the strategy guide to you regularly. I know for a fact, there are a grand total of 6 Sonic levels and 4 Shadow levels in the game, right? And that's it. So that means a total of 10 levels that he's trying to defend. And I said, what's more, the last Sonic and Shadow levels are both awful, like for each character, because they're in space and they have these stupid gravity puzzles and they're stupid. And one or two of the levels are the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Both of them go through the forest.
Yeah.
Both of them go through the bridge. So I was like, you're basically talking about 8 levels. 2 of them are shit. So that leaves 6 levels that you're trying to say are good. And even then, there's still glitchy, broken nightmares that you fall off the level constantly because the camera doesn't work.
Yep.
And I was like, so you're defending this game on the basis of 6 halfway playable levels that still suck. And he went back and played it, and he was like, yeah, this game is shit. You know, like, there's just no way. The fucking Knuckles and Rouge levels are boring as shit. The Tails and Eggman levels are pointless unless you're trying to fucking raise chows, in which case you go to the first Eggman level.
I like the Knuckles level for the music. The Knuckles
don't get me wrong.
This the Halloween
down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost seeds. I know that it's here. I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I gotta hold my head because I have no fear. It probably seems crazy or graveyard eerie. A ghost tried to approach me. He got leery. Asked him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through alleys, flying pumpkin in the valleys. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back him up with a fist metal crackle. They hear someone saying you were chicken only scared. It had to be the wind because nobody wasn't there. I searched as I climbed up the wall, and then I started to fly. I went in deeper. Let it get deep, we just go creep.
I love that fucking that place, man.
Don't get me wrong, I love the music in that game. I think City Escape is an all-time classic song. All the Knuckles songs are great, and Live and Learn was my favorite song all growing up. So, you know, I appreciate the nostalgia for this game. I am nostalgic for Sonic Adventure 2. but it is an awful
Steam,
game.
dog, I'm telling you.
And I can also appreciate that there's reasons to play it. Like the Chow Garden is fucking fun.
Yes.
Like,
oh my god. Like this. That was the Chow Garden had all those badass mini games where you could make the chows like sumo fight. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh
and,
god.
I mean, like it's when you go back and play it, you realize how fucking mindless it is. Because to collect shit for the chows, you have to go to Mega Man's first stage. Because that's the best place to get the things. You play for like 13 seconds, get 10 things, and then you go to the Chow Garden and give them to them. And it takes forever to grind for chow stuff. But it's so adorable, and the music... Are you gonna answer it? No? And the music is so mind-numbing that, like, you just get into, like, a haze, and you keep playing it, right? So, I think the Chow Garden is definitely... I understand why it would be playable. And I know that some people play it for other reasons, because I was talking to my girlfriend, Ashley, and she was saying that she loves Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, right? And I was like, please, it's just nostalgia. I gave her the same spiel I just gave you, and she said...
You better tell her it's on Steam.
Well, she said, I loved the Knuckles... She probably doesn't even know what Steam is, actually, but I could tell her that. And she doesn't really play many video games. Like, she's trying to play Disney Infinity right now, and is, like, playing it very slowly, because she gets headaches if she plays games for more than, like, an hour, so...
Yeah, my girlfriend's the same way.
But, in any case, Sonic Adventure 2, I was like, it's awful, right? And she was like, oh, I like the, there isn't a way through it. You temporal witch power on it. So, you had to use your temporal witch power. Do you have your temporal witch power?
I have no idea what that is.
Go into witch mode or whatever?
You gotta, like, dodge. Wait.
Can you, like, click both action sticks or whatever? Like, click both the sticks at the same... No?
Nope, it's not doing shit.
I don't know.
But finish what you were saying while I look around for...
Anyway, she was saying that she loves the Knuckles and Rouge levels, and I was like, why? And she said, because I didn't play them to actually find the emeralds. She would just invent her own adventures. Because you're free roaming in this random environment, and you have no real time limit. So she would literally just sit there and, like, invent her own story for what she was doing. And I was like, you know what? I can respect that. I understand that. I don't think you'd probably do it today because you're older and you probably would be bored of it, you know.
Right.
But I can totally get why that would have been a way to make those levels fun as opposed to just frustrating and fucking eternal. But I still think that overall Sonic Adventure 2 is a shit game, and I think it's mostly nostalgia that makes anyone care about it. And if you go back and play it today and just, like, think about what you're doing and think about how frustrating it is, because there's no one who's, like, so good at it that they don't fuck up, you know? Like, it's not like you can master Sonic Adventure 2 because it's broken. It's just the camera will kill you. And people always try to say, oh, Sonic has gone downhill since Sonic Adventure 2. And it's like, no, it had already gone downhill. It was already at the bottom and it just kept going down, you know? Like,
I'm about to get into some Assassin's Creed shit right here.
It was so funny, and Game Grumps had the same argument where they were playing Sonic 06, and at one point JonTron was trying to say that, like, how could they go downhill from Sonic Adventure 2, and Aaron went, this is exactly the same. He's like, that game had all the same problems, they just weren't as severe.
Yeah. And
he disagreed with him, so then they came back for the next episode and they were like, so, we played Sonic Adventure 2, and JonTron realized that it was awful. He was like, you know, it's not as bad as 06, but it's not good.
Did you finally sway Victor into understanding how bad that game
was?
was?
He did. Like I said, when he went back and played it, he was like, this is atrocious. I mean, he enjoyed Chow grooming still, you know.
Of course. Like, that was probably the best part of that game, was the Chow grooming, or Chow breeding.
I mean, I haven't done it myself, but I have witnessed probably over 1,000 hours of Chow Garden.
Jesus.
All the songs I can call up just boom, 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 do 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 do. Even the kindergarten song. It's like when they would sing when you're in the kindergarten, checking your stats and shit. All of it is all ingrained into my memory permanently. I can never forget this shit because
half of the time I invested into that game was on someone else's GameCube at their house.
We had so many because we had multiple memory cards, and it would be like, you know, because you could only have one Chow Garden per memory card. So we would make, like, we'd have multiple memory cards with different Chow Gardens on them.
You guys were Chow breeders.
Well, because, like, you could have, I think, 8 or 10 per garden. So there's 3 gardens, and you'd have like 8 per, and then you'd make another memory card, and you'd have your chows on there, and then you'd try to keep track of whose chows were on which memory cards, and then our memory cards would get corrupted sometimes, and you'd lose your chows, and it'd be a big dramatic experience. That's the kind of shit that we had dealt with as kids. Those were that was the big problems in our lives, was our corrupted chows on memory cards.
Finally getting a PS2 and not having a memory card. So every time I played Ratchet and Clank, I had to try to get as far as fucking possible. Why don't you live that life?
Do you understand that when they first released the GameCube, the only memory card for it was 52 blocks maximum? And one season of Madden took up 52 memory card blocks.
That is... What?!
So if you owned Madden, you could not save anything else in the same memory. And memory cards, like the 51 block ones, or 52 block ones, were still like $20 or $30. So you would have to fucking spend out the ass for these memory cards early on. Eventually they made bigger ones, but like... It goes,
give it to That was great. Alright, what were you saying? That was fucking great. I can't wait to rewatch this.
I don't know what I was saying. Chow Gardens, yeah.
You're talking about the Madden 52 block thing.
Oh, yeah. 52 blocks on the memory card. And we had a bunch of memory cards, and they'd get corrupted because in Phantasy Star Online, this was the fucked up shit that would fuck us up. Because the 2 games that we had a lot of time on was Sonic Adventure 2 for the chows and Phantasy Star Online because of our characters, right? Because the thing is, we grew up playing a shitload of Phantasy Star Online, but we never played it online. Because the game was originally a Dreamcast game, and Dreamcast was like the first console to have internet capabilities, right? And the game was fairly popular on the Dreamcast, but the Dreamcast also went down in flames like after a year and a half or 2 years or something, right?
Burning!
So Dreamcast goes down in flames, and they released it for the other consoles, right? And the GameCube could go online, but we didn't know how to make it do that. You know, we were kids, we had no fucking idea how to make internet connections to our consoles, so we never did so. And we only ever played on... I think the GameCube could go online. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know about that.
I know the PS2 could go online.
Yeah, but you had to do a lot of shit to it.
Right, exactly. And the Xbox version could go online. The Xbox version was online only, which is why we never bought it for Xbox. But because we didn't have Xbox Live.
Look at me.
But the GameCube version had offline multiplayer for up to 4 players, so we would play that all the fucking time with me, Victor Shade, and our friend Kyle. And you know, if you didn't quit game, like, because when you hit the quit game button on there, it'll go to a little loading screen and it'll like save the game for you. If you don't do that and you just turn off the game, it would corrupt your save file on Phantasy Star Online. So you have to make sure you fucking quit game. Or if the console like turned off on you, you could get fucked and stuff like that. You know, like if you had a power outage while you're playing, it could possibly corrupt your saves. So we lost, and it would like fuck up the whole memory card sometimes. So we would lose like all these save files because of it, and that was a pain in the ass. But yeah, good old days. Memory cards aren't even a thing anymore. That was a pretty short-lived part of gaming, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was enjoyable.
maybe 10 years memory cards were like a thing. The Xbox 360 had the detachable hard drive if you wanted to put it on a different, system.
The PS3.
Does it?
Yeah. You can take the hard drive out. I replaced my hard drive with I had a...
Did you do that through modding or?
No, you can just get a new hard drive. You just buy a new hard drive and put it in there. It's on the front to the right. There's a little thing you slide off. You got to unscrew it, and then you pull the hard drive out. And you can put a new one in there.
Interesting. But yeah, so memory cards altogether though are pretty much phased out. Yeah. I think. I don't know what the memory, because by now we've got fucking cloud storage probably for saves, or we should.
The 360 has cloud storage.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about all I have to say about Sonic Adventure 2. What got me talking about Sonic?
I don't remember. How did we get on the Sonic?
I have no idea.
Let me think back. But I was pretty focused on this game, so
I haven't been. I have no idea what even is happening.
Oh!
I've been so not paying attention that I was just like, where the fuck is he now? Like, what's going on?
Man, some of the attacks I've been doing are just, oh man, this game is great. This game is fucking great.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm guessing, so, like, with the format of this show that we're doing right now, are we going to play, like, a different game each time?
Yeah, I think we should play a different game each time.
And then you can just, like, that's what we can do, is, like, we could start playing each game at the start of the week, and then you can, like, beat it over the course of the week, and then we'll start a new game, and, like, talk about the game you beat the week before on the next episode.
Yeah.
Because we haven't actually clarified what exactly this show is going to be like. We're hoping to do it weekly.
Recommendations are welcome as well, by the way.
Well, we'd have to be able to buy the games, like they
no, not game recommendations. Recommendations as to what to talk about. Like, what do you guys want to hear about?
yeah, definitely feedback is appreciated. If anyone cares about the show, if anyone watches it, let us know. Do you want us to talk more about games? Do you want us to talk about personal? So we haven't really talked about anything personal. We've mostly talked about games, haven't we?
Except my poor life when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, well it was games related. But yeah, I guess talking about games is kind of the best way to go about it because it's a gaming show. But if you want us to talk about other topics or anything, or
Jesus, this chick.
If you think this is a shitty idea, or if it needs to be longer or shorter, because we're only going to do it once a week, so that's why we're going for the 2 hours length. And that's assuming we even find the time to keep doing it every time. At some point in February, there will definitely be 2 weeks where I won't do it because I'll be in Montana. So, but yeah. Let us know in the doobly-doo. The
doobly-doo.
Actually, the doobly-doo is supposed to be the description. Whatever. What games have you played recently?
Castlevania. I forgot what it's called.
Oh god, not Lords of Shadow.
Was that it? Is that the one that's third person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that.
Well, they're all third person, but you mean 3D.
3D, yeah.
What did you think?
It's getting kind of irritating. Because if you don't get every item in every stage, the later stages get hard because you have to have health upgrades or certain items to fight certain bosses. And like I said, I hate games like that. Mm-hmm. that irritates the shit out of me.
So, but you're okay with the combat and everything? Because I've heard
it takes some getting used to, but
it's like a God of War.
Oh shit! Are they fighting each other?
I don't think they are. I think they're fighting you.
But he took damage when that one hit him.
I guess you should probably use them to try to fight each other.
Yeah.
Like get them to stay close so that they'll hurt each other.
This damn camera does not help anything.
Are you able to control it with the stick?
It's slow. It moves very slow when I'm controlling it.
See if you can speed up the camera controls. Like go to the options.
Yeah, it's a good idea to check that. What else have I played?
Yeah,
started Mass Effect 1 last night.
Did you?
Yeah. There we go. Wow, why is it at the bottom?
I don't know.
Jesus. There you go. What else have I been playing? A lot of Tekken, of course. Me and Donson actually were playing Sleeping Dogs recently because we went through a Donnie Yen phase, and the main character of Sleeping Dogs is exactly like Donnie Yen. But that was interesting. I should be able to
I've heard that game's really fucking good.
It is really good. It's underrated as shit though, and that bothers me because I thought that game was fucking great.
Underrated or just undersold?
Both. Like, a lot of people didn't like it. If you look a lot of reviews, I wonder what Yahtzee said about it actually.
He liked it.
Okay, yeah, like it's really underrated.
I mean, I don't really look to him for his opinions on like quality of games. I just like his comedy and the things he'll say about games. But
now I know what the Red Hot Shot is.
But in terms of people who I do listen to, what's his name, Campster, Errant Signal, he loved the game. He talked about how it did right the things that Grand Theft Auto 4 had done wrong. And the game is gorgeous as well, which actually is probably a bad thing.
Dude, the soundtrack to
because that game had the same issue that that Resident Evil 6 did. This is continuing on the topic of companies that are overselling their games, basically. Square Enix is the publisher of Sleeping Dogs, and the expectation of how much that game was supposed to sell was lower than what it did, but it sold, again, this is a case where it sold like 5 million, and they were like, oh yeah, it didn't make back what we were hoping it would, and it's like, 5 million is a lot of fucking copies.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem with the industry right now, and a lot of people are saying that this is why the next console generation and the entire AAA games market, people have been predicting its crash for about a year now because of the fact that the price of admission for games keeps going up, but the number of people buying games is not going up, or the people buying those kind of games. Because the thing is, games like Call of Duty do insanely well, right? They sell crazy amounts of copies, but they cost like nothing to make. Because every Call of Duty game just uses the same engine.
Because they know everyone's going to buy
the
it.
Same shit. Right. But every other company is like trying to become the next Call of Duty and make this big game. But they're instead inflating their budgets, and then they don't make enough money. Even though they're selling crazy amounts of copies, 5 million is great sales.
High expectations, man.
Exactly. And, like, I was saying this, I bring this up in my Wind Waker review that I'm working on right now, that, like, the Wind Waker was considered like a financial failure by Nintendo because they expected it to sell a lot better than it did, because Ocarina of Time had sold like 6 million copies. It was one of the biggest games on the N64, one of the biggest Nintendo games to have come out in a long time. Did really well. And when the Wind Waker came out, it sold half of that. It sold like a little over 3 million. But the thing is, they blamed it on the art style, because the Wind Waker art style was really controversial because everyone expected the next game to look different, and it didn't, and people complained about the Wind Waker's art, right? Mm-hmm. And so when they made their next game, they made it Twilight Princess, and they made it super realistic, and to me, Twilight Princess looks like complete ass, right? I think that game is ugly as shit, and it's all muddy and weird, and the textures are bad, and it just looks awful.
I got some money for you right here.
But they blamed it on the Wind Waker's graphics. But the thing is, the GameCube itself did not sell very well. The highest selling game on the GameCube had 7.5 million, and that was Super Smash Bros. Melee. And the Wind Waker is the 4th best selling game on the GameCube. So it sold really well for a GameCube game.
Really?
It just didn't sell really well for a Zelda game. But compared to normal games, 3 million copies is plenty. That's not anything to scoff at. That still puts it in the higher percentile of game sales. But because they expected it to sell better, then when they went into Twilight Princess, they were like, we're going to change it. We're going to make it the game that the Western fans want. Because mostly the sales weren't as good in the West because people didn't like
this
the
was the
the
worst
art style.
idea I've had in this game.
And so They did that, but it was like the Wii also sold a lot better than the GameCube did, and so I think the sales figures are not necessarily the best way of like predicting how well the game really did, And Phantom Hourglass, which is the direct sequel to the Wind Waker on the DS, sold like 4 million, which is better than the original game, and it wasn't even that good of a game, but it was on the DS, so there was way bigger audience for it.
Right.
So I think that them completely blaming the cartoony graphics was just not completely the whole story. Yes, the cartoony graphics were a problem, but they definitely hurt the sales because of the fact that they had made an E3 trailer when the GameCube first came out that showed an adult Link, and it showed.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. Yeah.
And then they also they had adult Link in Super Smash Bros. Melee. So people thought there was going to be an adult Link game, and there wasn't one, and I understand that. And I'm sure it had something to do with hurting the sales, but the fact that no one owned a GameCube in the first place is really the problem.
Kind of what ruined it.
Right. Because the fact stands that it was the 4th best-selling GameCube game, and if any minor game sells 3 million copies, it's a big deal. There's a great video by Jimquisition about this, about when Square Enix came out with their statement. That they were like disappointed with the sales of Tomb Raider, Sleeping Dogs, and Hitman Absolution. All 3 of them undersold, even though they had crazy numbers. And what Jimquisition was saying, he's like, oh no, Dark Souls, what a big failure. It only sold 2 million copies. How will they ever make a sequel for it? Wait, what? You mean to tell me that the Dark Souls only expected to sell like 500,000 and their budget was really small, but they made an amazing game that crazy... Because 2 million was crazy for Dark Souls. It's a niche game,
Yeah.
It was already a sequel. Demon Souls probably sold less than 1 million, and it was already a big enough deal that they made a sequel to it.
Yeah.
Dark Souls had a crazy breakout success, which is why they made Dark Souls 2. And of course, Dark Souls 2 has a higher budget. You can tell by looking at it, but... But they didn't have crazy high expectations. They budgeted their game correctly, and the game still looks gorgeous. And it's still fun to play, So obviously all this money going into these games is not helping. You know, it's not improving the games at all. And it's not improving the chance of them selling. It's just overinflating the prices of games, of making games, and selling games. We're in an era now where no one wants to pay $60 for a fucking 6-hour game. You know, no one wants that anymore. We're in an age where you can get a game that's infinite for $10 on Steam. Like Minecraft or something, you know, where you can play, like, I've watched Shade. The games that Shade will play are games like Minecraft and Terraria and Starbound and shit. These are games that cost $10 or $15 and are endless. He's poured thousands of hours into Terraria and Minecraft.
Yep.
You know,
I've watched them. So
that's the kind of game that's going to be, you know, marketable in the coming years. That's the kind of thing that's taking off. And the AAA market of we need to pour all the money possible into a game is not going to work, because even when they sell insanely well, you're still losing money. And that's the problem with the next console generation is it's already that expensive to make games on this console generation.
Right.
Now think about how much it's going to cost to make games for the Xbox One and the PS4, and then think about the fact that not enough people even own them yet.
Not yet.
Like, you know, even though the PS4 has already sold 4 million units, which is pretty fucking good considering it's only been out for a couple of months. But 4 million units, if your turnover, if you're expecting, like, you know, like the Sleeping Dogs or Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider sold, I think, 6 or 7 million. It was still considered a financial flop for Square Enix. But, oh, did you stop playing?
Yeah, that I got to a point that was, I'm going to have to, like, focus on.
Alright, well, we're rounding out about an hour and a half, so we can wrap up the show, I guess. But
right.
The last thing I was going to say is just, you know, if it costs that much to make a game that you need to make over 6 million in sales, and you're going to make it for a console that doesn't even have 6 million units sold, then obviously it's not going to sell well enough to make back its sales. And that's why these consoles are coming out with no launch titles. Because companies don't want to make the launch title. They want to wait till they know people are actually going to buy the game because they'll actually own the console.
Right.
So why would they want to make a launch title? You know, that's the whole issue here, I think. And the problem is that, you know, if game companies hold off, these consoles are going to go, oh shit, we're losing too much money producing these things. We're going to go down in flames and die. And, you know, all of it is, it's all very hanging by a thread, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, that wraps up the first episode of Derrick and Conrad Play Video Games. We'll be back next week, I guess.
That's a working title, by the way.
And and Derrick will probably try to beat Bayonetta before next week.
Yeah.
So that we'll be able to talk about it again on the show. It's gonna be rough. The game gets very hard.
But yeah, you'll hear from us soon. So later.